He held a Bible every Sunday. He stood at the pulpit and told his congregation how to live, how to love, how to honor the people God had placed in their care. And then he went home, and he drugged his wife, and he smothered her with a pillow while his 2 daughters slept in the next room. His name was Matt Baker, a Baptist minister from Hewitt, Texas, a small, deeply religious community just south of Waco, where everybody knew everybody, and the church was the center of everything that mattered. His wife's name was Kari, 31 years old, an elementary school teacher, a woman her mother described as faith-oriented, devoted, someone whose entire identity was rooted in her family, her community, and the God she had built her life around. She was found dead in her bed on the morning of April 8, 2006. Her husband told police it was suicide. He had been so certain it would be believed. So certain that a typed note, an empty bottle of sleeping pills, and the word of a grieving Baptist minister would be enough. He was almost right. This case almost never went to trial. Kari Baker's death was ruled a suicide. The case was closed. Matt Baker was free. Free to comfort his congregation. Free to date the woman he had been seeing behind his wife's back. Free to build the next chapter of his perfectly constructed life. Free to get away with murder. Stay with me, because this is the story of a man who hid behind a Bible, and the family who refused to let him. What makes this case even more chilling is not just what Matt Baker did on the night of April 7, 2006. It is the years of deception that preceded it. The secret life he had been living while standing at a pulpit every Sunday. The search terms on his office computer. The mistress who would ultimately destroy him. And a note hidden inside a dead woman's Bible that said everything Kari Baker knew was coming. The perfect couple. To understand what happened in the Baker home on that April night, you first have to understand what Matt and Kari Baker looked like to the world around them. They looked perfect. Matt Baker was everything a Southern Baptist congregation could want in a minister. He was personable, charismatic, the kind of pastor who remembered your children's birthdays and visited you when you were sick and made you feel, when he was speaking from the pulpit, that he was talking directly to you. He had attended Baylor University, the prestigious Baptist institution in Waco that carries enormous cultural weight in Central Texas. He had studied to be a minister. He had committed himself, at least in public, to a life of faith and service. Kari, born Kari Doolin, had met Matt during their college years at Baylor. Their romance had been fast and certain in the way of people who believe they have found exactly what God intended for them. They married after just 3 months of dating. They appeared to be the perfect couple from day one. It was a whirlwind romance, said Kari's mother, Linda Doolin. Kari became an elementary school teacher. She was, by every account of everyone who knew her, exactly what she appeared to be. Warm, generous, deeply faithful. Someone who showed up for the people around her without being asked. Her faith was not performative. It was the actual center of her life. Together, they had 2 daughters, Kenzie and Grace. They lived in Hewitt, Texas. They attended church. They were the Bakers, the minister and his devoted wife, the family that sat in the front row and set the example. But Matt Baker had a secret. Several of them, as it would turn out. And on the night of April 7, 2006, those secrets finally arrived at a conclusion he had been building toward for months. The double life. The secret life of Matt Baker did not begin with Vanessa Bowles. But Vanessa Bowles is where the story of Kari Baker's murder becomes possible to understand. Vanessa was a woman who had met Matt Baker in the autumn of 2000, 5 months before Kari's death, when he was interviewing for a position as minister at a church she attended. She was taken in by him in the specific way that people are taken in by someone who presents themselves with total confidence in their own righteousness. He seemed, she would later say in a courtroom, like exactly what he appeared to be. He didn't stay that way for long. Their relationship became romantic within weeks. Matt Baker, the married Baptist minister, the father of 2 young daughters, the man standing at a pulpit on Sunday mornings talking about the sanctity of marriage, was having an affair. But it wasn't just an affair. In the course of that relationship, Vanessa Bowles would later testify, Matt Baker told her things. Things about his marriage, about his wife, about what he was planning. He told her he wanted Kari dead, not once, multiple times. In the specific, matter-of-fact way of someone who has already made a decision and is simply waiting for the right moment to execute it. He told Vanessa that Kari was depressed, that she had never recovered from the death of their 16-month-old daughter, Cassidy, who had died of a brain tumor in 1999, 7 years before Kari's death. He told her that Kari had always been fragile, that nobody would be surprised if she took her own life. He was constructing the narrative before the death, building the story he was going to tell. And then, in the weeks before April 7, 2006, he began acquiring the means. Records salvaged from Baker's workplace server were incriminating. We got to parts of it that showed he had search terms like overdose and death by sleeping pills, said Johnston, a minister, on his work computer, searching for how to kill someone with sleeping pills. April 7, 2006. The night of April 7, 2006 began ordinarily. Matt and Kari Baker were at home in Hewitt. Their daughters Kenzie, 9 years old, and Grace, 5, were asleep in nearby bedrooms. It was a Thursday evening, a normal Texas night. What happened in that house after the children went to sleep is something that investigators and prosecutors would spend years reconstructing from forensic evidence, witness testimony, and the specific, damning chain of decisions Matt Baker made in the hours that followed. According to prosecutors, Matt Baker had obtained sleeping pills from Unisom and given them to his wife under some pretext. The specific pretext is unclear. What is clear is that Kari Baker ingested a significant amount of sleep medication that night. And then, according to the prosecution, while his wife was sedated and incapacitated while their daughters slept down the hall, Matt Baker drugged his wife with sleeping pills and then smothered her with a bedroom pillow. When she was dead, he staged the scene. He placed an empty bottle of Unisom on the nightstand. He placed a suicide note on the table beside the bed, a typed note, not handwritten. A note that praised Matt and blamed Kari. A note written in a voice that the people who knew her would later say did not sound like her. And then, Matt Baker called the police at midnight. He told the dispatcher he had just returned home and found his wife Kari unconscious in their bedroom. He told them he had left the house at approximately 11:10 in the evening to rent a movie and get gas for the car. When he returned, the bedroom door was locked. He had used a screwdriver to open it and found his wife unconscious and naked on the bed. Firefighters and EMS arrived. They were unable to revive Kari. She was pronounced dead at the scene. There was a guy who was holding a Bible on Sunday telling everybody how to live, and he'd murdered his wife, Johnston said. Every minute that went by, Baker was closer to getting away with it, and he knew it. The note in the Bible. The investigators who responded that night accepted Matt Baker's account. The death was ruled a suicide. There was no autopsy ordered, no forensic examination. A suicide note and an empty bottle of sleeping pills and the word of a grieving minister were apparently sufficient. Matt Baker was free. He attended his wife's funeral. He comforted his congregation. He performed grief with the same fluency that he performed everything else, the specific, practiced grief of a man who had spent his adult life standing in front of people and telling them what they needed to see. But Kari Baker's parents, Linda and Jim Doolin, did not accept it. Linda Doolin knew her daughter. She knew that the typed, blame-shifting note on that nightstand was not the voice of the woman she had raised. She knew that the Kari Baker, who had been exchanging upbeat emails about a new job opportunity in the days before her death, was not the Kari Baker of that suicide note. She began asking questions immediately. And then, at Kari's funeral, a preacher gained access to her Bible. Inside the Bible, he found a handwritten note dated April 2nd, 2006, 5 days before Kari's death, scribbled in the pages. "Lord, be the center of our relationship," the note read, in part. "Lord, I'm asking for you to protect me from harm. I am not sure what is." The note was unfinished, but its meaning was unmistakable. 5 days before her death, Kari Baker had written in her own Bible, the Bible she carried to church, the most private space of a woman of deep faith, that she was asking God to protect her from harm. From harm. She knew, not everything, not the specific details of what her husband had planned, but she knew, in the way that people who live with danger sometimes know before they can name it, that something was wrong and that she was afraid. She wrote it in her Bible and she left it there, and it waited for someone to find it. The family who wouldn't let it go. The Doolins did not wait for the system to work. They hired a private attorney, Bill Johnston, a former federal prosecutor, and they began gathering evidence themselves. They filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Matt Baker, which gave Johnston subpoena power and the legal tools to demand records and testimony that the original investigation had never sought. And what Johnston found was devastating. Records salvaged from Baker's workplace server showed search terms like overdose and death by sleeping pills. A minister searching on his work computer for how to kill someone with medication. Johnston also found evidence of Matt Baker's affair with Vanessa Bowles. He found the specific, incriminating timeline of a man who had been planning his wife's death for months and had left behind a digital trail that the original investigation had never looked for. He took what he had to the Texas Rangers. Johnston turned to Matt Cawthon, an old friend who was a member of the Texas Rangers, the statewide law enforcement team. The Rangers opened a full investigation. In March 2009, nearly 3 years after Kari Baker's death, Matt Baker was indicted. Authorities said Baker gave his wife drugs and then suffocated her with a pillow to make it look like a sleeping pill overdose. The case that had been closed as a suicide was reopened as a murder, and the minister who had stood at his wife's funeral and told his congregation that God had called Kari home was charged with being the man who had sent her there. The forensics. The physical evidence that investigators assembled in the years between Kari's death and Matt Baker's trial told a story that the original suicide ruling had never accounted for. Lividity. The pooling of blood after death, the specific, measurable process by which a body's blood settles under gravity once the heart has stopped, told forensic experts something important about the timeline Matt Baker had given police. Matt Baker said he was only gone for about 40 minutes, but Kari's body showed signs of lividity. The experts said it was unlikely that Kari could have ingested drugs, died, and reached that state in such a short period of time. The timeline didn't work. The body told a different story than the husband. The Unisom bottle. The quantity of medication Kari would have had to ingest voluntarily, and the time frame in which she would have had to die after ingesting it. The forensic pathology of a death staged to look like one thing when it was actually another. The suicide note, typed rather than handwritten, grammatically inconsistent with how Kari Baker wrote and communicated. A note that praised her husband and blamed herself, written in the specific voice of someone constructing a narrative for an audience, rather than expressing genuine personal despair. And then there was Vanessa Bowles, the mistress who had heard Matt Baker talk about wanting his wife dead, who had been told the plan, who had, in the specific psychology of a woman who had believed his version of everything, his marriage, his faith, his reasons, eventually understood that she had been used as part of the architecture of a murder. She agreed to testify, and her testimony, heard in a Waco courtroom in January 2010, would be one of the most important pieces of evidence in the entire trial. The trial. January 2010, McLennan County Courthouse, Waco, Texas. The trial of Matt Baker was, from its opening day, a case that divided itself clearly between two versions of the same man. The version of his congregation had known the devoted minister, the grieving father, the community leader who had stood at his wife's funeral and spoken about God's plan with the steady voice of someone who had not just made that plan himself. And the version that investigators had assembled from computer records and forensic pathology, and the testimony of a woman who had been told in explicit terms what Matt Baker intended to do. Prosecutor Crawford Long told the jury Baker drugged his wife with sleeping pills and then smothered her with a bedroom pillow. Vanessa Bowles took the stand. She testified that Matt Baker planned his wife's murder and ruthlessly followed through. She described the relationship, the conversations, the specific, chilling moments in which a man who had been telling his congregation how to live a godly life had told his mistress that he wanted his wife dead. The defense argued that Kari had died by suicide, that she had never recovered from the loss of their daughter Cassidy 7 years earlier, that the note and the pills and the locked bedroom door were exactly what they appeared to be. The prosecution pointed to the Bible, to the handwritten note dated 5 days before Kari's death, to a woman asking God to protect her from harm. They pointed to the computer searches. They pointed to the livid evidence. They pointed to evidence that Baker had made sexual advances toward at least a dozen women, including some underage girls, over the past 18 years. Matt Baker did not testify. He sat through 7 days of testimony, expressionless, controlled, performing the specific composure of a man who has spent his life managing what other people see. The jury deliberated for more than 7 hours. They came back with their verdict: guilty. The sentencing, January 21st, 2010. Matt Baker stood in the McLennan County Courthouse for sentencing. Jurors had deliberated approximately 2 hours on the sentence. They gave him 65 years. Kari's mother, Linda Doolin, told Baker that the family had decided to forgive him for the sake of the daughters. Forgiveness. For the man who had drugged their daughter and pressed a pillow against her face while their granddaughters slept down the hall. That statement delivered with the specific, costly grace of a woman who had spent 4 years fighting for justice and had arrived at a place where she could offer forgiveness without withdrawing the fight, is one of the most extraordinary things said in a courtroom in this entire case. Linda Doolin did not forgive Matt Baker because what he had done was forgivable. She forgave him because her granddaughters were watching, because Kenzie and Grace, who had lost their mother and were about to lose their father to a prison sentence, needed to see that the adults in their lives were capable of moving forward without being consumed by rage. "We did it," a sobbing Linda Doolin said as she left the courtroom and embraced relatives and friends. 3 years and 9 months after her daughter's death had been filed away as a suicide. They had done it. The psychology of Matt Baker. Here is the question that lives underneath every detail of this case. How does a man who stands at a pulpit every Sunday, who counsels grieving families, who tells his congregation about the sanctity of human life, who presents himself as a servant of a God whose primary commandment is love, arrive at a Tuesday night in April where he drugs his wife and presses a pillow against her face? Forensic psychologists and criminal profilers who study cases involving killers who hold positions of religious authority describe a particular and consistent profile. The public role and the private reality exist in completely separate compartments. The man who stands at the pulpit is not performing hypocrisy in the simple sense he is not a person who believes one thing and does another while knowing the contradiction. He is a person who has developed the ability to hold two completely irreconcilable versions of himself simultaneously, switching between them with a fluency that people who lack that capacity find almost impossible to understand. Matt Baker had been living a double life for years. The affairs, not just Vanessa, but the pattern of sexual advances toward women in his congregation and community that the prosecution documented. The secret searches on his work computer, the conversations with his mistress about wanting his wife dead, and every Sunday, the Bible. The specific danger of a man like Matt Baker is not that he was evil in a way that people could see. It is that he was evil in a way that nobody could see. That the performance of goodness was so complete, so sustained, so apparently consistent, that it served as a shield against the very scrutiny that might have revealed what was underneath it. Kari Baker saw something. 5 days before she died, she wrote in her Bible that she was asking God to protect her from harm. She was afraid of her husband. She just couldn't prove it. And the system that was supposed to protect her, that was supposed to look more carefully at the circumstances of a young woman's death, that was supposed to order an autopsy and question the timeline and not take a minister's word for what had happened in a locked bedroom, failed her completely. She had to fail first, before her family could fight, before the Texas Rangers could investigate, before Vanessa Bulls could testify, before a jury could see through the Sunday morning performance to what was underneath it. Kari's daughters. There is a detail in this case that is easy to move past in the sequence of events. The investigation, the trial, the 65-year sentence, but that deserves to be held. Kenzie and Grace Baker, 9 and 5 years old, on the morning their father called 911 and told the dispatcher that their mother had committed suicide. They grew up. They are adults now. They grew up knowing that their father murdered their mother, that he had planned it, that he had sat at their mother's funeral and spoken about God and grief while holding the knowledge of what he had done. That the man who had read them Bible stories and prayed with them at dinner had taken a pillow and pressed it against their mother's face. They grew up in the care of Linda and Jim Doolin, the grandparents who had refused to accept the suicide ruling, who had hired an attorney, who had spent 4 years fighting to give Kari justice. Linda Doolin told Matt Baker in the sentencing hearing that the family had decided to forgive him for the sake of the daughters, those daughters who were shaped by the loss of their mother and the revelation of what their father was Kari. This story in a way that no sentence and no verdict can fully address. They were asleep in the next room while their father murdered their mother. And when they woke up the next morning, everything they thought they knew about their family had already been dismantled. They just didn't know it yet. He held a Bible every Sunday. That is the image this case leaves behind. Not the courtroom, not the 65-year sentence, not the forensic pathology or the computer searches, or the testimony of a mistress who had been told the plan. A man at a pulpit, holding a Bible, telling people how to live, and going home to a wife who had written in her own Bible 5 days before she died that she was asking God to protect her from harm. Kari Baker was 31 years old. She was a teacher. She was a mother of 2 daughters who needed her. She was a woman of genuine faith, not the performative kind, not the kind used as a shield, but the real kind. The kind that you carry with you into the quiet moments of your life, and that gives you the language to express fear when you have nowhere else to put it. She put it in her Bible, and God and a funeral preacher and a family that refused to stop asking questions made sure that note was found. Matt Baker is in a Texas state prison. He will be eligible for parole consideration when he is well into his 70s. His daughters are grown. The congregation he stood before every Sunday has had to reckon with what was standing at their pulpit. The case almost never went to trial. Kari Baker's death was filed as a suicide. The case was closed. Matt Baker was free. 40 minutes from the window he claimed he was absent from the house stood between him and a clean escape. The livid evidence said he was lying for about 40 minutes. The computer searches said he had been planning for months. The note in Kari's Bible said she already knew something was coming. And her mother said, "We did it." On behalf of a daughter who had written a prayer for protection in the pages of her Bible and never came home. Kari Baker, 31 years old, teacher, mother, believer. A woman whose faith was real, whose husband's was a performance, and whose family refused for 4 years against every obstacle to let the performance be the final word. They did it. For Kari. Always for Kari. Retention line. The most dangerous secrets are not the ones hidden from strangers. They are the ones hidden in plain sight. In the front row of a church, at a pulpit on a Sunday morning, in the hands of a man holding a Bible. Next week, a killer who attended the vigil for the person he murdered and spoke at the podium.